Всем привет, с вами Веб, и формат веб-сериалов не меняется с древнейших времен. Чаще всего это, конечно же, found footage с загадочным сюжетом, в котором происходит всякое. Если честно, подобные штуки уже надоели как мне, так и тебе, я знаю. Поэтому давай глянем Tapes from Beyond. Веб-сериал в жанре, как ни странно, found footage, в котором главная героиня делится со зрителями загадочными кассетами, на которые записано всякое. Но ты спросишь, веб, но чем в таком случае этот веб-сериал отличается от сотни других? И я отвечу своим форматом. Да, перед нами единственный в своем роде веб-сериал-подкаст, в котором главная героиня и ведущая рассказывают зрителю загадочную историю на протяжении 12 на данный момент видео. То есть, объясню, каждое видео композиционно поделено на две части. Шоу-подкаст и непосредственно сами записи. Ничего такого я ранее еще не видел и не слышал. И, как по мне, уже именно поэтому веб-сериал достоин внимания. Поэтому смотрим.
And we are rolling.
Do you say rolling when it's a podcast?
Well, we're streaming it too, so I guess it doesn't really matter either way.
Fair point.
All right. Well, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
I go first.
Yeah, you are the subject of this podcast.
Kind of.
Just say your name and why we're doing this.
Okay. My name is Jacklin, but everyone calls me Jack. And this is a podcast about some weird tapes I've been receiving since I was a kid.
You have zero flair for the dramatic.
Hey, you're the artist here. I am just an innocent bystander.
All right, fine. Hello, listeners. My name is Lina, and welcome to the inaugural episode. This podcast is devoted to unraveling these mysterious and disturbing cassette tapes that my friend Jack has been receiving in the mail since she was a child. The content of which spans from the bizarre to the downright horrifying. In each episode, we will listen to one of the tapes and discuss any relevant information, as well as any theories that we have developed about who is sending them and why they are sending them to Jack. But fair warning, this is a mystery to us as well. We don't have the answers. The primary reason for this podcast is that we're hoping that one of you might be able to help us crack this case. This is Tapes from Beyond.
То есть, вы понимаете, здесь ведущая, фактически прямо говорит, что перед нами не просто веб-сериал, но АРГ-веб-сериал. То есть на кассетах, очевидно, что-то может быть зашифровано, спрятано и так далее. И это уже само по себе интересно. Но давайте все же выслушаем историю Джек, ведь она знает об этих кассетах больше, чем кто-либо еще.
Tell us about these tapes.
Well, it started when I was 9 years old. My family and I went on a cross-country road trip one summer, and when we returned home, there was a package sitting on the front porch for me. There was no return address on it, and it came in a padded envelope, which was beat to hell.
How did your parents react to this?
At first, they just assumed it was a friend who sent me a package from camp or something. Truthfully, I was being a right shit by the end of the trip, so I think they were happy to have a distraction.
Why were you, as you say, being a right shit?
I was 9, and I just spent 3 weeks in a station wagon with my parents and my brother.
Right. All right. Well, so they hand you the package, and then what?
I go into my room and open it, and find one of those mini cassette tapes for a handheld recorder, the kind people used to use before everyone had a smartphone.
Was there a note or anything inside?
Just the tape. It was unlabeled, and Other than looking roughed up like the envelope, there was nothing remarkable about the physical tape.
The content on the tape, however, was a different story.
That's one way of putting it.
So then what happened?
My dad had one of the old recorders that he kept in a box out in the garage, so I found it and played the tape.
And we're going to play that tape for the audience here in a few moments. But I'd like to do a little housekeeping first. So you swear to me and to everyone listening that the story you're telling is true. These tapes were sent to you in the mail and you had nothing to do with their production, nor do you have any idea who made them or why they were sent to you.
That is correct.
And how are we supposed to believe you?
I guess I really don't care if anyone believes me anymore. I'm only doing the podcast because we're friends and you asked me to.
Oh, come on, Jack.
I'm serious. I spent my entire childhood trying to convince people that these tapes were real, and no matter what evidence I produced, people still found some way to try and say it was all fake. So I stopped caring.
I believe you, and I am sure some of our audience will too. I just want to lay out all the facts because that's the only possible way we can solve this. Regardless of how small or trivial it may seem, even if you don't care whether or not people believe you, I know you still would like to figure this mystery out.
Fine. Well, when I was 12, my sister played one of these tapes, the third one I received, at a Halloween party for some friends, and one of them was recording the party on video. In it, I walk in while they're playing it, and I freak out on them.
Okay, so at the very least, we can prove that the existence of these tapes goes back 15 years or so?
Correct.
And can we talk to your family about this?
Technically, but I would rather you didn't.
Why not?
Because these tapes aren't a fun conversation for my family. They're mostly indifferent about it now, but it's caused a fair bit of hardship throughout the years.
But like I said, anything could help our listeners crack this case.
We don't even know if this podcast has any listeners. So how about we just wait a minute before we cause any unneeded family drama?
Okay, that's fair. Well, one last thing I want to touch on before we play the tape. The tapes themselves have not been edited or altered in any way. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. We're about to listen to the first tape, but we do have to warn our listeners. Some people might find some of the language and circumstances being described in this tape disturbing. Listener discretion is advised.
So I decided I wanted to give this recording thing another shot. I'm not going to rant like I did the last time because that's not going to help anything. But I feel like I'm losing my fucking mind here, and I need someone to talk to.
Even if that's just a small shimmer, I think that's better than nothing. And
I think there's a practical reason for doing this as well, in that I can't explain a lot of what I've seen these past couple days, a lot of what I've experienced. And, I don't know if I'm going crazy or if this town is crazy or what, but, I figure if I talk about what I've seen in these recordings, then at least I can go back and listen to them and know that I'm not making it all up, because I don't know how long it's going to be until someone can come and rescue me. I don't know how long it's going to be until I can get out of here. I don't know if, I guess I'll start from the beginning. I only came to this town because I'm doing that thing for my brother. I guess one of the families is from here, so I got their address and I drove all the way here. When I finally got off the freeway, I still had to drive down these back roads for a long time. And I eventually came to a gas station that was on the outskirts of town. And, I go inside hoping that someone will be able to help me find this address. But when I got in there was no one there. The doors were open, there was product on the shelves, the lights were on, but there was no one inside. So I waited around for a little bit. I thought maybe, someone was on their break or going to the bathroom or something, but no one showed up. So eventually I just grabbed a copy of the town map and I went out to the car to try and find the address on my own. I was able to find the street that it was on, and I figured that would be a good enough start. So I go to start my car, and lo and behold, my car doesn't work. Now, I don't know a lot about cars, but this one's brand new, and there's no reason it shouldn't have worked. But it didn't. So I got out and I started walking into town. I figured there had to be a mechanic in town somewhere, and I didn't know, frankly, what else to do.
No, the town itself
was kind of nestled down in these hills. And, I don't think I'm doing justice to just how eerie this all felt already. As soon as I got off the freeway, I got this overwhelming bad feeling, like this don't go feeling. Now, I'm not a superstitious person. I figured, I must have just been anxious about the task at hand. So I just pushed it out, and I just went into town anyways. So it wasn't just that gas station that was abandoned. It was this whole town. The whole time I was walking down the road, there weren't any cars. I didn't see anybody else walking. There was nobody on a bicycle. I passed a handful of houses, but they all looked abandoned. There was no sign of life anywhere. There weren't any animals. Hell, there wasn't even any roadkill. This whole town was empty. It was dead. But I didn't know what else to do. So I kept walking.
Eventually I came up to this trail
that cut down the hill and through the woods. And it had a sign that said that it led towards downtown. So I pull out the map, and best I could tell, that this trail would save me a couple miles off the trip. It was getting pretty close to dark, and I didn't want to be out here at night. So, I take the trail. I mean, how was I supposed to know? So I get maybe a half mile into the trail, and I hear this noise from behind me. So I turn around. So I keep walking back into town, but maybe just a little bit faster now. I get a couple more steps, and I hear the noise again. So I spin around, and still nothing. And then I hear it again. And that's when I realized that the noise wasn't just coming from behind me. It was also coming from above me. It's kind of this hazy forest, and it was getting pretty close to dark, so I didn't have a great view of it, but I could see this giant, vaguely humanoid silhouette hanging in a tree. And I swear, as soon as I looked at it, it started charging at me. So I turn around and I run. And this thing is chasing me. It's swinging through the trees. I can hear it grunting as it leaps from limb to limb. I can hear small branches explode as it plows right through them. And it's gaining on me. And I know that this thing wants to hurt me. I know that if I let this thing catch me, it's going to pummel me into the ground. It's going to pound me until I'm pulp. And I don't want that to happen, so I run. And eventually I see it. I see where this trail, this steep, downhill, woodland trail, empties out onto this flat, paved road. And I feel like if I can just get to that road, maybe I have a chance. But this thing is getting closer and closer. And I get right up to the edge of the trail, and I hear the thing drop down from the trees. I feel the ground shake as it lands right behind me, and I know I have to be within this thing's arm's reach, so I just leap forward. And I hit the ground, but I don't stick the landing, and I go tumbling forward. And I know that this thing isn't going to trip, so as soon as I stop rolling, I just curl into the fetal position and I wait. But nothing happens. I've rolled a lot further than I realized. I'm at least 100 feet from the edge of the woods. But I can see the thing standing there, right at the edge of the shadow of the tree line, like it was afraid to come out into the light. And like I said, it was a hazy day, and I'm not in a great shape because of the fall, but I can make the thing out a lot clearer now. and it looks like this massive, there's something
wrong with it. It's sick. It's
I remember once I read this magazine article about this guy who had this condition. This poor man, they called the tree man, because he had all of these growths all over his body, and they're so thick and so dark that it looked like he was made partially out of bark, like he was made partially out of this wood. And that's what this thing looked like. And I'm staring at this thing, frozen in terror. And then it screams. But it wasn't this low, animalistic roar like you might expect. It was high-pitched. It sounded like a child being hurt, like a child being murdered. And I will never forget that scream. It is scarred into my memory. But that broke me out of my trance. As soon as that thing screamed, I got up and I started running into town. When I started moving, I could feel how bad a shape I was in, but I had to push that out. I couldn't think about how hurt I was, because then I wouldn't be able to move, and this thing would get me. So I go running into town, and I get into the downtown area, and I start screaming like a maniac. I start screaming, "Help me, please! God, somebody help! There's something in the woods! I need help! Anyone, please!" But just like everything else, it was abandoned. There were cars in the road, but they were covered in this layer of filth.
everything was decaying, like it had been left for dead decades ago.
But I run up to the buildings anyways, and I start pulling on the doors, and they're all locked. Some of them are barricaded shut. None of the buildings even had lights on, except for one. One building down at the end of the road lit up like a beacon in the middle of the ocean. So I forget everything else and I go running straight towards it. And that's how I found this bowling alley. As soon as I got up to the door, I try the handle and it opens right up. I got inside and I started screaming for help again. Nobody answered, but I was expecting it this time, so it didn't hurt as much. I checked the lock behind me and it worked. And as soon as that lock slid shut, I felt this wave of relief. For the first time since I got off the freeway, something worked. Finally, the pendulum swung in the right direction. And that moment of relief allowed me to realize how bad a shape I was really in. My heart and my lungs burned. I could feel the cuts and bruises all over my body start to swell. I could tell that my ankle was severely injured. But mostly in those first moments, it was my legs that hurt. I'd never run like that before. And they felt so weak and heavy. They felt unstable, like they were made out of wet cement. And I knew that I needed to sit down. I see one of those hard plastic benches at the end of a lane, and I go to walk towards it. And as soon as I try and take that first step, I just collapse onto the ground. My legs did all that they could. They refused to work any longer. So I start crawling towards it, and I pull myself up onto that bench. As soon as I put my head down, I passed out. Now, I can't tell you how long I was out for, but when I woke up, it was completely dark out. I probably would have slept through the whole night, but the thing from the woods was outside. It woke me up with one of its ear-piercing screams. I could hear that it was close, too. I could hear it shuffling around and grunting out there. I could hear the occasional click of its wooden club-like limbs against the cement, and I knew that it was searching for me. And to top it all off, I really had to pee. Now, I didn't want to get up and go to the bathroom, because what if I made a noise and alerted that thing to my presence? So I figured, I'll just piss my pants. I mean, all things considered, it would be far from the worst thing I went through that day. But then I realized that I couldn't do that either. Because what if this thing was using scent to try and track me down? And what if that was enough to alert it to my presence? So I sat on that hard plastic bench, body aching, frozen in terror, too scared to piss my own pants. Now, fear has a way of slowing down time, of really stretching out a moment, and pain does as well. And together it's exponential. So I can't tell you how long I waited for that thing to leave, but it felt like an eternity. Eventually it did leave, though. I couldn't hear its grunting or shuffling anymore, and its screams became more of an echo. And when I was absolutely certain that it was gone, I waited for what felt like another eternity, just to be safe. And when I couldn't stand it any longer, I got up and I made my way into the bathroom. Now, I wish I could tell you what I was thinking in that moment, but to be honest, I don't believe that I was thinking at all. I don't think that I was ready to process the horror of the situation that I was in, that I'm still in. But when I finished, I hit the lever and the toilet flushed, and that told me that not only did this place have electricity, but it also had running water. So I made my way over to the sink and I turned on the faucet, and out rushed cold, clear, clean water. And after I drank as much as I could, I looked around to see if there was anything else useful in this bathroom. And I found a mop handle that I used as a walking stick. And there was a first aid kit that I used to patch myself up with. I even made a makeshift splint for my ankle. I then made my way out to the main area of the bowling alley. I noticed that even though it was run down, like everything else in this town, structurally it was sound. The doors and windows were intact. There weren't any holes in the roof or in the walls. There was even vending machines that were fully stocked in the corner. I made my way into the office next and found a lot of other useful things as well. I found keys to the vending machines. I found that letter. I found this tape recorder that I'm talking to you on now. But most importantly, I found that this room had a locking door and a couch. So I took the keys and made my way back out into the main area, and I got myself a dinner that the 8-year-old me would have killed for. I took my chips and candy and pop. I went back into the office, locked the door, ate my dinner, and passed out on the couch. And that's how I spent my first night here. In
So, it's великолепно и, можно сказать, лучшее, что я видел, скорее слышал со времен AI Builds. Да и вообще, возможно, это лучшая экшн-сцена в веб-сериалах за все время существования жанра. Да. Особенно смешно, что картинки в этой экшн-сцене и нет. Но рассказчик настолько умело справился с поставленной задачей, что она оказалась и не нужна. Совсем справляется воображение. Во втором видео противоречия между Линой и Джек обостряются. Лина, как ведущая мистического шоу, начинает, конечно же, строить теории, но Жаклин фантазии подруги приходится не по душе.
Okay, well, based off his accent, I think it's safe to say he's from the States and likely somewhere in the central northern part of them.
You don't know that.
Well, sure. But I think it's safe to assume...
You can't think like that. If you start making assumptions just because you want to make some narrative fit, that could be a breaker question.
A what?
I'm sorry. I mean, it could drive you crazy chasing ghosts. You don't have anywhere near enough evidence to start building theories. Right now, you just need to start gathering evidence. No one listening to this should think they have all the answers yet. I've had these tapes my whole life, and if the answers were so easy to come across, don't you think I would have them already?
Но у Джек есть свои предположения по поводу того, кто такой этот загадочный трэпт-мэн. А девушка его называет именно так.
Does the person on the tapes ever state their name?
Nope. I've always just referred to him as the trapped man.
It sounded to me like tape A ends with him starting to say the name of the town.
I don't think he was saying the name of the town. I think he was saying inside.
Why would he say my first night inside?
Now this is starting to veer into future tapes. But I think he comes from the criminal justice field, and as you likely know, someone being inside is a slang term for someone who's in prison, which is an apt metaphor for her circumstance, to say the least.
Well, to be honest, with that in mind, I kind of have to redo my thoughts on tape A. So how about we play tape B and go from there?
That works for me.
Well, we do have to warn our listeners. Some people might find some of the language and circumstances being described in this tape disturbing. Listener discretion is advised.
I've started to develop a plan of attack for how I can get out of this place. I've come to the conclusion that no one's coming to rescue me. If I have any hopes of escape, then I need to make it on my own. So this entry isn't going to be a journal. It's going to be a list of the primary obstacles that I see to my escape and the plans that I've developed thus far to the first of which, obviously, is the thing from the woods. I've gathered enough evidence about its behavior that I feel that I can reasonably make some assumptions about it. I hate hanging my life on assumptions rather than facts, but I don't have another choice. So what do we know about this thing? Well, it only comes into town at night. It comes into town every night, but the earliest I've heard it in town was 17 minutes after sunset, and the latest 43 minutes before sunrise. It usually comes into this part of town, but sometimes I can only hear it screaming off in the distance. But I still don't think that I have any chance of surviving a physical altercation with this thing. So if I hope to get out of this place in one piece, literally, I think my only option is to try and avoid it. Which brings us to the second obstacle, getting back to the freeway. As I've mentioned before, the town is surrounded on three sides by these hilly forests, with its remaining side being bordered by a giant lake. I've thought about trying to find a boat and crossing the lake, but the problem I have with that is the town map that I have barely stretches beyond the edge of the lake, and that makes everything outside of it an unknown quantity, which seems more dangerous to me. It's kind of a, choose the devil that you know sort of situation. So the best plan that I've come up with thus far is on whatever day that I'm ready to leave, on daybreak, I'll make my way to a building at the edge of near the edge of the town, and I'll wait in it until nightfall. Then once I've heard the thing from the woods enter into the town, I'll make my way up the path. And assuming that I can get through the woods in one piece, I'll then begin the long trek back to the freeway. The third obstacle for me escaping is presumably the town itself. The town or some malicious entity in it is trying to keep me here. It actively works against me every time I try and leave. It's something that exists beyond the standard accepted belief of what is real, of what can be.
But I'm not gonna speculate on what it is.
I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you that, the town is haunted by ghosts or demons or some sort of ancient magic or aliens or a government conspiracy or anything, because I don't know, and I can't know. And if I sat here and I tried to piece it all together and have it make sense, I think that could drive me insane. That could be a breaker question. So, but whenever I try and leave the town, it's a completely different experience. The first day that I was ready to leave, my plan at that point was just to make my way down the road that leads out of town. So daybreak came, and as soon as I stepped out the door, I felt a raindrop hit my head. The further away I got from the bowling alley, the harder the rain came down. Towards the edge of the town, it was coming down so hard that I decided to go inside one of the buildings and try and wait it out. So I go up to a door, and of course it's locked, but I bust open a window with my elbow, and I managed to cut my arm, but I wasn't going to let that stop me, so I get inside, and I go through my pack to pull out the first aid kit, and surprise, surprise, the first aid kit isn't there. Now I know that I packed it. I double-checked everything twice before I left, but all the same, it wasn't in here. Again, I wasn't going to let this stop me, so I tear off part of my shirt and use that to bandage up my arm, and I wait around for the rain. I sat in that building for hours, but the rain never stopped. Eventually, it was late enough where I didn't think that I was going to be able to make it past the woods by night, and at that point, that was the only requirement that I had for this trip. So I left and started to head back towards the bowling alley. Figured I would just try again tomorrow. Wouldn't you know it, as soon as I start walking back towards the bowling alley, the rain starts to let up. And when I got back to the doors of it, the rain had practically stopped. That night, the thing from the woods was outside the bowling alley the entire night. I could hear it sniffing around and grunting. I could hear the click of its limbs. And of course, its occasional scream. But needless to say, I didn't get a lot of sleep that night. But when dawn broke, I decided that even if it was going to rain again this next day, I wasn't going to let that stop me. I decided that if the rain came, then I would rather have it sweep me away into oblivion than to stay stuck in this town. So I step out the door again, and it wasn't raining, but it must have been a byproduct of all the rain. The fog in the town was so thick that I couldn't see more than 2 feet in front of me, and I got maybe about midway into the town when I heard something in the fog. Something was moving around, and I don't know why I hadn't thought about it before, but hearing that noise gave me the sudden realization that if the thing was awake in the woods during the day, then maybe this fog would serve as adequate cover for it as well. And I got just absolutely terrified. I could feel the thing nearby, and I started scanning around wildly, hoping, just trying to get a glimpse of it. I just didn't want it to sneak up on me. But it was pointless, Like I said, I couldn't see more than 2 feet in front of me. And I really debated on heading back to the bowling alley. And I sat there for a while before I decided that I was going to keep continuing on anyways. So I slowly continued down the route. And eventually I got to the last turn that I had to take before I got to the road. And when I turned it, instead of seeing the road that leads out of town, I saw the front of the bowling alley. Now I know that I was going the right way. Sure, I stopped for a moment in the middle, and maybe I looked around, and you probably think that I just got turned around while I was sitting there, but I know I was heading the right direction. But it didn't matter where I was going. The town took me right back to the bowling alley anyways. Now the point to me telling this story is not to talk about how hopeless it all is or complain about the horrors that I'm facing. It's actually quite the opposite. I get some hope from these stories because maybe this entity that's keeping me here is maybe it can do whatever it wants and it'll always find some way of making me stay, but I refuse to accept that. I refuse to believe that, Because if that's true, then what's the point? I'm not going to let this town just steal my life away.
В третьем видео склоки между подругами и не думают заканчиваться. В начале ролика Лина с согласия Джек показывает зрителям запись, в которой она всячески уговаривает Джек предоставить больше доказательств зрителям, чтобы те не подумали, что все это фейк. Но Жаклин отказывается, обвиняет Лину в недоверии, вы понимаете, как все это обычно бывает. Да.
I think that might be one of the reasons we're not getting the engagement we're looking for. I think if we had someone else who could prove that you're not making it up, then people might be a little more willing to believe it.
I told you I don't care if people believe it or not.
Yeah, sure. But if we're not going to try and prove that you're telling the truth, what is even the point of all this?
Lina, you're not listening to me. There is no proving it. Any evidence I provide just leads to another question. If you bring one of my exes on, they'll tell you they listened to it, but it won't matter. Why would the audience believe them over me?
Впрочем, по признанию Джек, именно эта третья кассета под кодовой буквой C нанесла ей серьезную психологическую травму.
All right. I'm sure everyone is anxious to get into tape C, but I had one question before we started. Jack, you said that this tape was the one that sent you into therapy. Were you being serious about that?
Yes.
All right, and you also wanted to give an extra warning before playing this tape.
Yeah. Look, I'm not saying this to try and hype up the tape or anything. Maybe this tape won't bother other people like it did me, but this one got to me in a way that none of the others have. This one gets really dark, but more so, I don't know how to put it exactly. He talks about some stuff in here that I could never get out of my head.
So are you saying this is a good jumping on point for people?
No, I'm saying this is a good jumping off point for people.
Okay, well, let's not hype this up anymore. Let's get right into the tape. We do have to warn our listeners. Some people might find some of the language and circumstances being described in this tape disturbing. Listener discretion is advised.
The author made some really interesting points that have stuck with me. I think about them. She defined insanity as a person's inability to accept the reality that they perceive. She said that in order for a person to go insane, that they don't need to have an entire alternate reality that they're subscribed to. They just need to have doubt in their own reality. That doubt alone could be so damaging that it could break the foundation of their reality. I mean, think about it. If you're willing to question a core truth, a core belief, then suddenly anything can come into question.
She said because of this that
insanity was highly infectious, and that oftentimes there would be a single question that caused that initial foundational break. She called these breaker questions.
Ломающие вопросы. Где-то мы такое уже слышали. Да, все верно, на второй кассете.
And if I sat here and I tried to piece it all together and have it make sense, I think that could drive me insane. That could be a breaker question.
Как по мне, это может значить только одно. Кассеты идут не в хронологическом порядке. Кстати, слышал шум дождя на третьей кассете. Так вот, как ты, должно быть, помнишь, на второй кассете Трэптмен рассказывал, как он попал в сильнейший ливень. Поэтому, очевидно, третья запись была записана первее второй. Но, более того...
So I decided I wanted to give this recording thing another shot. I'm not going to rant like I did the last time, because that's not going to help.
Очевидно, под напыщенными речами Трэптмен имел в виду третью запись. То есть кассеты идут в обратном порядке. третья, вторая и первая. Но вернемся к третьей записи.
I know that this town is trying to drive me insane, but I'm not insane. I know what insane is. I've seen insanity. My brother was insane. My brother was insane. I'm not insane. My brother, the whole fucking reason that I'm here. Maybe I need to talk about him. Maybe I need to talk about him. My brother wasn't an evil person. But he just had something in his head, something that it filled him with this darkness. And he tried to fight it. And when we tried too, Mom and I tried so hard. He used to call me all the fucking time. He used to call me and talk to me, and he had this sound in his voice, this manic tone. And I knew that whenever he called me and I picked it up and I heard that sound that I was in for a long fucking night, because he would just sit there and he would talk and he would ramble. And I would try and talk him down, and I would try and help him get out of this place that he was in. But I don't know how to do it. I don't have the tools, you know? And we tried to get him, you know, into different places and talk to different doctors and stuff, but nothing seemed to work. Nothing seemed to help. And then one day he called me, and I was heading out, and I let the answering machine get it, and I picked up, and I heard his voice, and I heard that tone in his voice, and I just let it go. I had a date, and I didn't want to miss it. And it's not like it would have been the first one. I've missed countless dates and parties, and it affected my schooling. It caused me to miss studying. It caused me to fail some tests in the past. But this just one fucking night, I didn't want to do it. Just one fucking night. I needed a night for me. And that was the first time he killed someone. But am I supposed to hang on to that guilt forever? Am I supposed to hate myself? Am I to blame for all of these people? He killed 19 people. That's fucking crazy. I mean, what if I did pick up? And what if I did talk to him? And what if it did stop him? Does that mean that the next time that he called me and I legitimately wasn't home, or I didn't hear that he would have done it, and it just pushed it back a little bit further, or I don't know. You can't know these things. But am I supposed to carry that guilt forever? Is that why I'm here? Eventually he got caught. So there was a trial, and he was found guilty, and he was sent to jail. But my parents have a lot of money. And they have a lot of status. Paid to have it all covered up. To have it stay out of the papers. And my brother went to jail. And he killed himself. And the whole situation just made me so fucking mad. Just so fucking mad at everything, at everyone, at every single aspect of it. And I couldn't handle it. I didn't know what to do. What are you supposed to do in that situation? And I decided that I was gonna go and talk to the victims' families. I was gonna find the families of every one of them. And I was gonna tell them who I was. And I was gonna tell them that I was sorry for what my brother did. And that I was just gonna let them say whatever they wanted to say. And I wasn't there to try and convince him that he wasn't a bad person or to try and explain how he did what he did. I just wanted to be there for the family because they needed somebody to hate. They needed somebody that they could get all of these awful feelings out on. And my parents covered it all up. And my brother was dead. So I was the only person who could do that. So I just went there and I let them hate me. And some of them didn't want to talk to me. But some of them had a lot to say. And so I went to family after family. Until finally I found one of them lived here. And now I'm trapped in this fucking town. I don't think that I deserve their hate, but they don't deserve to have it either. They don't deserve to have that burden on them. So I wanted to be a safe place for them to put it. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in sin or the afterlife. Well, if I'm wrong, and that's what this is, I've paid for my sin. I've paid my dues. I don't belong here. I don't deserve to be here.
I'm sorry, I need a second here.
Да, все в шоке. Лина в шоке. Жаклин в шоке. Веб в шоке. Но я в первую очередь впечатлен актерской игрой рассказчика. Он настолько эффектно подает историю, а она, кстати, еще и очень хорошо написана. Да, что в нее веришь. Впрочем, теперь мы знаем истинную причину, почему рассказчик оказался в городе. Поэтому приступаем к следующей кассете. Она сама себя не прослушает.
good news. I'm the proud owner of a brand new bike. So, one way or another, this is my last night here. I was able to get down these stairs in the flower shop by counting all of the stairs I could see. And then there were 18. And then before I started walking down them, I closed my eyes and I just counted every step that I took. 1, 2, 3, 4, until I got to 18. And then I took one more step. And I opened my eyes and there I was. I wasn't on the stairs anymore. I was on the basement landing.
He killed 19 people.
Да, это, естественно, не может быть простым совпадением. Но о каком цветочном магазине говорит Трэптмен в этой записи? Что-то мне подсказывает, что они опять идут не в хронологическом порядке. Но в этом видео кассетная запись не главная. Так, именно здесь выясняется не очень приятная подробность относительно семьи Жаклин.
Well, you have to understand my family dynamic at the time. There were basically two sides when it came to these tapes. There was my mom and my side, where we were invested in the story of the trapped man. We believed the tapes were real, and we were worried about him. Then you had my dad and my sister, who thought my mom and I were crazy, and only viewed this whole thing as a nuisance. That divide only got larger with every new tape.
Are your parents still together?
No, when I was 16, my mom left.
What do you mean?
I mean, she got in a car, wrote us a note, and left.
Why did she do that?
I don't know all the details, and I really don't want to talk about it anymore.
Тем временем записи становятся все безумнее и безумнее. Да, такое чувство, будто у Трэптмена больше не остается сил сдерживать эмоции.
So I just re-listened to this tape, and I just need to say, fuck that guy. Fuck that coward. Fuck that weak, spineless piece of shit. I lied to you in this fucking tape. When I recorded this thing, my ankle was probably healed for at least a week at this point. But I was too goddamn scared to try and get out of this fucking place. That asshole on that tape that you just listened to stole months of my life from me. His cowardice is exactly what has kept me here so fucking long. It's that exact fucking line of thought that is keeping me here.
И безумие заводит Трэптмена все дальше и дальше, пока, наконец, на кассете F он не делает нестандартное умозаключение.
Let me explain. I've come to the realization that this has to be purgatory. I feel that's the only thing that makes sense, as much as anything makes sense here.
И здесь же рассказчик вспоминает, как его брат убил свою первую жертву.
When my brother and I were kids, I witnessed the first time he killed someone. My brother and I were at our family summer home, and we were playing baseball with another local kid. Sam Sullivan was his name. Sam was an asshole. You know, he wasn't a bad person, but he was an asshole. You know, a lot of kids are that grow up with generational wealth think that they're better, so they think that they can treat people worse. And he was also a lot better of a ball player than I was, and I hadn't gotten a single hit all day. You know, I was a really emotional kid, and so, you know, I was just getting more and more mad as the night went on, and that was causing me to
to do worse and worse. And my brother pulled me to the side, and he said, Blue, and that was his nickname for me, told me that you need to try and calm down, that you're swinging angry, and that you won't be able to focus if you do that. I told him that I didn't want to calm down. I just wanted to hit the ball so hard that it disappeared into the lake, and then we could stop playing this stupid game. He looked at me and he said, you want that? And I said, yeah. And he said, okay. Well, if you want, I can do that. And I said, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to go home at this point. I didn't care anymore. You know, because Sam was being really mean to me. He was, you know, he's asking if I wanted him to bring the tea out, and he was asking if there was a hole in the bat, and he was being a kid, you know. He was being an asshole of a kid, but he was just being a kid. And then so we switched positions, and Sam was catching still, and I threw the first pitch, and my brother swung so hard that he spun around in his shoes, and the baseball bat connected right onto Sam's temple, and he killed him. And I remember there just being so much blood, you know, and it was coming out of his eye and coming out of a bruise on the side of his head and coming out of his nose and his mouth. There's just so much blood. And I got so scared, you know, I couldn't even process what was happening. I didn't know what was going on. My brain just, it wouldn't connect the pieces, you know. And I told my brother that we should just go drag him in the lake and just say that we didn't see him, you know. And I didn't know what I was suggesting. You know, I didn't really understand what was happening. And I should have never said that. And my brother said no. He said, no, we have to go tell our parents. We have to go tell them right away, you know. And I tried to beg him to just take him into the lake. And he wouldn't. So we went home and we went to find our parents to tell them and they weren't home. So we went over to his parents and they were home and we told them. And I remember them running out of the house, and then I don't remember a lot after that. You know, but years later, my parents would try and say that this is when it started, you know, that he got the taste for it. And that's fucking wrong. It was an accident. It was an accident. He didn't mean to do it. It was an accident.
Не знаю, как у тебя, но во время прослушивания этой кассеты у меня складывалось такое ощущение, будто Трэптмен оправдывается за совершенное им самим убийство, а не рассказывает о злодеяниях брата. Что-то тут явно не так. Но смотрим дальше. Следующее видео удивляет. Ведь на импровизированное шоу Лины заявляется никто иная, как сестра Жаклин. И она представляет слушателю совершенно иную точку зрения.
But at this point, I don't think I have another option. I decided to talk with her sister. All right, I have started the recording.
Okay, first off, thank you for agreeing to this. I understand that my sister tried to stop this from happening, and I know that she has a way with words.
What is it that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I know you're doing this as part of your show. Do you want an introduction or anything?
Sure. Go ahead.
My name is Dr. Maria Fedek. Jack is my little sister.
And what made you want to reach out to me?
Well, I stumbled upon your show here and was, frankly, a little appalled to have my family history put out there on the internet. But I decided to let it go as I didn't want to create any more tension between Jack and myself. I only decided to speak up in the interest of my sister's health.
What do you mean by that?
I'm sorry to break it to you and your audience, but Jack has been lying to you this entire time.
Are you saying the tapes aren't real?
They're real in that they exist, but there's no mystery to them. We know who sent them and why.
Who sent them?
Our mom did.
What?
She admitted it.
Is your father the voice we hear on the tapes?
No, that was just some guy. But my mom was the one who orchestrated the entire hoax and sent them in the mail.
I'm confused.
Let me start from the beginning. Our mom was an artist. At least she was when she was younger. She ended up giving up on it when she decided to have a family, but she still had a passion for it. She would always work on these little projects. She had one in particular that was very intense. She took over one of the rooms in our house and built a little downtown area, like the kind you would find in a resort town. She made it out of sculpted foam that she painted. She filled the streets with all these little marionettes and modified the ceiling fan to pull strings on a track to have them walk around the town. She even gave each one of them a name, a personality, and a backstory.
That sounds incredible.
More like terrifying.
Do you have any photos of this?
She wouldn't allow it.
Why not?
She said that some art just needed to be experienced.
Did your mom hide all of her art?
No, she had plenty of pieces in galleries throughout the years.
So what happened that made your mom confess that she was the one who made the tapes?
Well, after the 6th tape arrived, my sister was having a real hard time with it all, so my mom decided it was time to end the ruse.
That doesn't make sense. If she confessed for Jack's sake, why did she do it after tape F and not after tape C, which according to Jack, sent her to the hospital?
My mom was not well, and even when she was thinking right, she was still a very odd person. I don't want to paint it with a broad brush and say all her mental health issues explain all the baffling things she's ever done, but I will say that if we try and pick apart her motivations for everything she's ever done, we'll be here all night without making any progress.
That's a very convenient explanation.
Not for me, it isn't. You can't imagine what it was like growing up with this hanging over your family, finding out that nearly a decade of your personal trauma was propagated by your mother without ever being given a true reason as to why.
Jack never mentioned anything about her mom being unwell. Was she ever diagnosed with a mental health condition?
No, but that is just one example of one of the many lies and stretched truths that Jack told you.
What else has she lied about?
Jack didn't go to the hospital for exhaustion after the 3rd tape. She was checked into a mental institution where they determined she was having delusions.
What?
Also, my mom didn't leave, as Jack had said. She killed herself.
What?
That's what made me decide to reach out to you. When she was just stretching the truth in the beginning to fit her narrative, I was comfortable letting that go. But when she lied about our mother, I knew I had to speak up. I don't know if she lied because it doesn't fit her narrative or if she lied because she truly believes it, but in either case, it shows that she is losing her grip on reality.
Obvious tension aside, I know this is a difficult question, so I apologize for having to ask it. The biggest gap in your two stories is what happened to your mother. Why are you certain she killed herself? Is there any possibility that's not what happened?
She wrote a suicide note before she got in the car and left. In it, she said that she was sorry for what she did to our family, and she was going to make it right. That in doing so, she would have to leave this place forever. 10 days later, they found her car in a lake in New England.
Did they recover her body?
No, but the front windshield was shattered and the lake feeds into a river which feeds into the ocean. So the local police said it was highly unlikely that we would ever find a body. And if that's not enough for you, I also saw my mom right before she walked out. And I can confirm that she was not in a right state of mind.
What do you mean that she was not in a right state of mind?
I was home from school on Christmas break and I couldn't sleep. I heard a noise downstairs and decided to investigate. It was my mom, and she was talking into a tape recorder. All I heard her say was, "I know I fucked up real bad." And then she noticed me and stopped recording. She tried to hide what she was doing too by shoving everything into her purse. And when I approached her, she gave me a big hug and looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I love you. I'm sorry. Please take care of your sister for me."
So what did you do?
I hugged her back. And when I was hugging her, I reached into her purse and pulled out a tape without her noticing.
Why did you do that?
I was trying to fulfill my mother's wishes. It sounded like she was recording a confession, and I wanted to make sure that Jack had a chance to hear it, so that she would finally give up on this whole sick, twisted delusion.
Was it a confession?
I don't know. In hindsight, I should have grabbed the recorder as I didn't see her eject the tape, but at the time I was a little distracted.
So what did you end up pulling out?
It was just one of Jack's tapes that my mother was carrying around with her.
Okay. Let's start at the beginning. Why don't you tell us the story of these tapes from your perspective?
Most of what Jack told you is true. Her, our brother, and our parents were all on a cross-country road trip when the first tape arrived. The only part about this that Jack left out was why she was so upset towards the end of that trip.
Why was she upset?
We had a family dog growing up. I was watching it while they were all on the trip, and tragically he got out and was hit by a car. When they stopped at a rest area, my mom called the house to check in, and I delivered the bad news. Needless to say, Jack took it really hard.
What does that have to do with the tapes?
Oftentimes, people will link trauma that they experience with an external element. This helps them cope with their feelings because it gives them a safe place to dump their negative emotions.
И вот, спустя 2 дня, Мария звонит Лине, чтобы сообщить неприятную новость.
It's Dr. Fedek, Jack's sister. You may have been involved for all I know, but Jack just broke into my house.
What? No, I haven't spoken to her since you reached out to me. I swear I had nothing to do with it.
Well, even if you did, I doubt you would confess to it now. So assuming that this is all new information to you, you should know, Jack called me and asked me to meet at our dad's house, which is an hour from where I live. When I got there, she wasn't, and she had stopped responding to my calls. When I got back home, my window was broken and my house had been torn apart, but the only thing missing was that tape I told you about. If you care about Jack at all and you can get in touch with her, tell her that if she accepts my call, I will not press charges. If you can't get a hold of her, release this on your little show because clearly she's still watching it.
Jack, it's Lina. This is important. Please call me back. Well, Jack, you haven't been answering my calls either. So I'm doing as your sister asked. I'm not picking sides. I'm just trying to keep you out of jail.
Впрочем, ответ от Джек не заставил себя долго ждать.
Welcome back, listeners. I received a text from Jack this evening that just read, "There's something waiting for you on the porch." I rushed out to see what it was, and there was an envelope there. Inside was a tape. I looked around to see if Jack was there, but there was no one. But I do need to warn our audience. This will be my first time listening to this tape as well, so I don't know what we're about to hear.
Hey, Lina. It's me, Jack. I hate to do it this way, but I think it's what works best for everyone. First of all, I owe you an apology for disappearing like I did. When you told me my sister reached out to you, I was scared that all the progress we made was going to be lost. When I watched your interview with her, though, I realized I was wrong, but it was too late at that point. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be cryptic. I only have a limited time here, so let me get straight to the point. I've told you countless times that I don't care if people believe me when it comes to these tapes, but that's not entirely true. I care if you believe me. My whole life, these tapes have pushed anyone I ever cared about away from me, except you. You're the only one who pushed back. So no more lies. This is the complete truth. Most of what my sister said was true. My mom did admit to sending me these tapes. I did spend time in a mental hospital, and my mom did kill herself. At least that's what I thought when we started making this podcast. About the only thing she got wrong was she said she accidentally got the family dog killed. He wasn't the family dog. He was my fucking dog, and his name was Phillips. I'm not sorry for my deception, and I'm sorry that it hurt you. If it helps, and it probably doesn't, but I didn't lie to you to deceive you. I lied to you to get you to believe the truth. Right or wrong, I would do it again because it got us the answers that we were looking for. But let me clear the air. I lied about my mom's confession because she was lying when she made it. Eventually, my mom talked me out and sat us all down at the kitchen table and made her confession. Everyone in the family took it really hard. Eventually, my sister and brother stopped talking to her. My dad filed for divorce, and my mom moved out of the house. But I still didn't know what to believe. When my mom was trying to solve these tapes with me, she had this passion that felt real. The mom who made that confession felt false and unconvinced of what she was saying. Anyways, 2 more tapes arrived over the next year, but I didn't even listen to them right away. Eventually, when I did, and they turned out to just be junk noise, it helped me finally settle on the story my mom told. We would still see my mom on occasion, but it wasn't a regular thing. I was the only one in the house who really seemed to want to see her, and I think that contributed to her absence. My sister was right that we were on the verge of being a somewhat normal family again. While we're on the subject of my sister, I think it's important to say that, in spite of her flaws, she's a good person and a good sister. She accused you, Lina, of using me for an art project, like she thought our mom had. And Well, I suppose to a certain degree that's true. It's also true that just like our mom, her misguided actions caused a lot more harm to our family than good. Whether she is willing to accept it or not, her unwavering insistence that the tapes were false was just as harmful as Mom's insistence that the tapes were real. And that forced all of us to pick a side, which drove us all apart. I don't blame her for doubting them. This whole thing is really fucking crazy. I just wish she would have accepted that we believed them. No one is right about everything. Not even Dr. Maria fucking Fedek. Maria, I'm sure you'll hear this at some point. So I want you to know that I love you. And I forgive you. Shit. I need to hurry this along. Which brings us to this tape. This tape that my sister had for all these years. Technically, I don't know when this tape arrived, but I've decided to call it Tape J. I believe this tape is the first one the trapped man recorded that he references in Tape A. I say that because when it starts, he states his name, where he lives, and the name of the town that he's in. And you know what, Lina? We were really close with our profile. I still don't know why he sent them to me, because I in no way have any relation to this person. But there's something else worth noting. The town that the trapped man is, or at least was, in, it's 20 miles from where they found my mom's car. I think she was going to that town on the night she left. I think she was hoping she would be able to free the trapped man, which would in turn free all of us. Obviously, this is probably a stupid idea, but I am now going to that town to try and find my mother. I don't want you or any of our listeners to try and come after me, which is why I am recording over the beginning of this tape. So, sorry, but this tape will be edited in some way.
И на оставшейся части записи на связь с Трэптменом загадочным образом выходит его брат. Да-да, тот самый, который убил 19 человек. Или все же 18.
Hey, Blue.
How?
I don't know. I know that this town brought me here, but I haven't the foggiest idea as to how.
Why are you here?
Well, this town really wants me to hurt you. But I think it underestimated me. I think it underestimated my strength because I'm fighting really hard not to. Because you're my baby brother, and I couldn't imagine ever hurting you.
Yeah, well, you did hurt me. All of those people that you killed, that hurt me, too.
I can't argue that.
Then why did you do it? I don't understand. I've never understood. Why did you do it?
I wanted to. It felt good doing it.
But that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't add up because you took care of me. You were a good person our whole life. You guided me through life. You taught me valuable lessons. You taught me more than our parents ever did. How can that be the same guy who killed all of those people? That doesn't make sense.
It does. And that's something you're just going to have to get over. A person's bad deeds don't wash away their good, just like their good deeds don't wash away their bad.
No, but this is different. This isn't It's too big. The gaps are too big.
There was something sick inside of me, this voice, and it would just say these awful things in my ear all the time. And the only thing that would make it shut up was killing people. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you.
What are you saying?
Come on, baby brother, you know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
Part of me may have loved killing those people, but another part of me wore the weight of their deaths. And 18 souls is a lot of weight. It was too much for me to take. Especially when I'm carrying an extra one around.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about Sam Sullivan.
He was different. He wasn't like the rest of them. You didn't kill him on purpose. He was an accident.
You're right. He was an accident. But I didn't kill him at all.
What?
God damn it, Adam! You're gonna make me say it? I've been carrying it around for my whole life, and you're gonna make me say it now, too? You can't even give me that much. You can't even fess up to it when it's just you and me here? You killed Sam!
Что ж, нечасто нас веб-сериалы радуют неожиданными сюжетными поворотами, и это как раз один из них.
Jack, if you are watching this, please don't go to that town. If it's not too late, please just don't go to that town.
Итак, что мы знаем? Трэптмена зовут Адам, и он убил Сэма. Именно поэтому, видимо, он и оказался в городе. Но мы пока что не получили ответа на главный вопрос. Почему город желает приманить Жаклин? Поэтому смотрим дальше.
Welcome back, listeners. I thought our previous episode was going to be our final one, but there have been some new developments. Jack is still missing, but her sister reached out to me and asked me if I would accompany her to Jack's apartment. Jack was already behind on payments and has now been evicted, so Maria wanted my help cleaning out the apartment. The police have already searched it, so everything in there needed to go. Jack's father and brother were also there, and they were none too pleased to see me. But they accepted my help all the same. While cleaning out Jack's apartment, I saw her files on the tapes. Her dad tried to conceal them from me and threw them in the dumpster, which I of course scooped up. If you're watching this, James... When I finished cleaning, I went to leave. But I froze as soon as I opened the door because there was a package sitting on the front porch, and I knew it was another tape. It was addressed to Jack and looked like the other envelopes. I took it home and listened to it, and after some debate, I decided to share it with you.
Спойлер алерт. Это та самая кассета, которую записала мать Джек перед своим трагичным уходом.
Last night, I came to the house, and as I suspected, there was a brand new tape sitting on your front porch, just waiting for you to come and get it. I took the tape home and listened to it, and in it the trapped man states all of the information we had been searching for, plain as day, including the name of the town he was trapped in. The town is also 5 miles away from the gas station we were at when I got the call from your sister about Phillips. Clearly, this town wants you to come to it, which is why I have decided to go instead. I hope that by me going there, I keep it away from you. Who knows? Maybe while I'm in it, I can find a way to destroy it. I don't know if it's going to work. This could all backfire horribly, but honestly, I don't feel like I have another option. Now that I know all of this, do I tell you? This is a decision I'm still struggling with in this very moment. I am recording this tape, but I don't know if I'm ever going to give it to you. Maybe I just let you continue to believe that they were all fake. I know the thought of me in that town will tear you apart, but I need you to promise me that you will not come after me. I hope that one day you too will start a family. If and when you do, you'll understand that the greatest thing a parent can ever do is take care of their family. This is my way of doing that now. This is my way of taking care of you. I know I fucked up real bad.
Mom? Jack, I really wish you could have listened to this tape before you left. I don't know if your mom's pleas would have caused you to change your mind or not, but at least then this would have been your decision to make, and not mine. I did some digging and discovered there is a ghost town near the place where your mom's car was discovered. Either way, for once, I am going to truly listen to my friend and follow her wishes by not going after her myself. This is a decision that I am sure will make some of you angry with me, and possibly rightfully so. But it's the decision I am making all the same. If this town is just a town, Jack isn't in any real danger. If this town is something worse, I don't think my presence there would help Jack. I think it very well could make things worse for her. I am sure some of you may think I am being a coward, or that I am talking myself into this decision, and to you, I will once again channel my friend Jack to say, I just don't give a shit what you think. Thank you, everyone, for taking this journey with us. I hope beyond hope that Jack is safe and that the trapped man really did make it out of that town. But as of now, we're at a dead end for both of them. If we ever get some sort of breakthrough and discover any new information about either of them, I will of course let you know. But barring that, this is the end. This is Lina with Tapes from Beyond. Good night and stay safe.
И пока я делал это видео, довольно долго делал, стоит заметить, вышел последний, финальный эпизод. Поэтому не вините меня, что видео так долго не выходит, в этом есть свои плюсы, как видите.
Welcome back, everyone. I am extremely happy to be filming one final episode of Tapes from Beyond. Jack's back, and she's safe. Needless to say, she's been spending some time recovering. We've been in pretty constant contact, and she'd been insistent that she wanted to do one more episode of the show. But for reasons that will remain private, she was not comfortable being on camera yet. After some discussion, we came to the conclusion that what would be best for everyone involved would be for her to write down her story and have me read it to you. So without further ado, here is Jack's story. Hey everybody, Jack here. Sorry, I'm sure you would have rather seen me on camera, or maybe never known I was back at all. I mean, running away to a haunted town while leaving my own spooky tape seems like the perfect ending to a scary podcast to me. But alas, I survived. I drove a long, long way, and eventually I got off the freeway and stopped at a little gas station on the outskirts of town. I can't help but think it was the exact same gas station Adam stopped at in tape A. It was just like he described. There was a spinning rack for greeting cards that had a single card on it. The front had the name of the town over a picturesque photo of a lake, and on the back was written, "Welcome home, Jack. It's been a long time coming."
И вот так хороший в целом веб-сериал превратился в дурацкую крипипаст. Да, в это сложно поверить, но для того, чтобы уничтожить веб-сериал, понадобилась всего-то одна серия. Очень плохая серия. Поэтому я буду ее перематывать, много перематывать. Ну, потому что это скучно и не особо достойно внимания.
The handwriting matched the envelopes the tapes were sent in exactly. I ripped the card up, grabbed a map, and walked out. I didn't even try my car. I just started walking into town. According to the map, the bowling alley wasn't too far away, so I started to walk over there. When I rounded the corner and saw the bowling alley for the first time, I almost tripped over myself. It was so bizarre actually seeing it. It was indescribable. Plus, at this point, there was no mistaking that there was something following me. So I decided to run to the bowling alley. When I got up to the door, I pulled on the handle, but it was locked. Then I heard a thump and a terrible yelp echo from down the street. So I go in the direction of the noise, and I could see something in the middle of the street. I ran up to get a closer look. There's a pack of dogs, and they're eating the carcass of another dog that looked like it had been run over by a car. I found a rock in the road, and I threw it at them to get them to scatter. They all looked up at me, which is when I realized there was something wrong with these dogs. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but they looked wrong. I started to run away from them.
У меня одного складывается такое чувство, будто из веб-сериала ушел сценарист, потому что все эти описания «пошла туда», «сделала это» и так далее, это не идет ни в какое сравнение с любой предыдущей кассетой.
And they began chasing me. I spotted an alleyway that was closed off by a barbed wire fence. I hopped the fence, but one of the dogs was able to bite my leg. I got back up and started running. And when I got out into the street, I noticed there was one other building that was also lit up. I ran to it, and when I got to the doors, I realized it was a hospital. I burst through the door and fell to the floor. To my shock, as soon as I fell through, I heard someone yell, "Oh my, are you okay?"
Из Лины очень никудышный рассказчик. Вы просто сравните это.
Help me, please! God, somebody help!
"Oh my, are you okay?" Oh my.
Все указывает на то, что эта серия была записана в спешке и только ради того, чтобы наконец-то уже закончить веб-сериал.
And before I knew it, I was being helped up by a couple of nurses. The last thing I was expecting in this building was to find other people, so the whole experience was extremely disorienting. Now, strapped to the gurney, they started wheeling me in deeper to the hospital. When I got a better look at the people, I realized something was very wrong about this place. Their skin was off-colored, and their eyes looked too big. They started wheeling me back to a room, and my head was strapped in pretty tight. I asked them why I was strapped down, and they just told me I needed to calm down. As anyone who has been told to calm down can attest, that had the opposite effect. Things kind of escalated, and then they injected me with something. I woke up some undetermined time later, and I was in a padded cell. I could hear voices outside my room. There was one of the nurses from earlier talking to someone else. Eventually, one of them came to the door, and they said that I was having a psychotic episode and that they needed to keep me in here for my own safety. I told them that was bullshit and they needed to let me go. They refused. This went on for a very long time. Every day they would slide food through a little gate on the floor, and every night a guard with a guard dog would come through the halls and check on each room. It went on like that for months. My plan was to wait for a day when the meat from my meal wasn't rotten. Then I would keep it until nightfall and leave it by the gate to distract the dog. I would crouch down by the gate and wait. Then, when the dog was distracted, I would grab his leash and yank the guard's arm, hopefully pulling him to the ground. At that point, I was going to try and get his keys and unlock my door to escape. I suppose I should explain something real quick. I don't know if this is normal for these types of places, but this place had a keyhole on the inside as well as the out.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
Извините, но после этого я больше не буду ничего переводить. Просто скажу, что будет дальше. Да, Джек выберется из города, и город даже не попытается ей помешать.
I then hopped into my car and drove back here. By the end, I think the town was just letting me go. I don't know if it got what it wanted from me or determined it wasn't worth the effort.
Как, видимо, решили и создатели этого веб-сериала. Я уже сказал про плохую актерскую игру Лины, но есть еще немаловажные проблемы, касающиеся сюжета. Дело в том, что эта последняя серия обесценивает страдания Трэптмена. Все еще остается непонятным, зачем Джек была нужна городу, потому что она вроде как ничего и не совершила. Возможно, это из-за детской травмы, вызванной смертью собаки. В таком случае это просто смешно. Только подумайте. Трэптмен убил человека и свалил все на брата. А Джек, ну а что Джек? Ей было просто плохо после смерти собаки в детстве, поэтому она и оказалась в городе. Достойная мотивация, в скобочках нет. Вообще, мне кажется, что эта серия, последняя серия, писалась и создавалась совершенно другими людьми, потому что, сравнивая первую серию и вот это вот, это совершенно два разных типа веб-сериала. Да, конечно, у первых серий тоже были проблемы. Все эти ненужные отсылки на Сайлент Хилла, особенно с именами персонажей. Но так делать не нужно было, поскольку веб-сериал, как по мне, и так довольно оригинален. За ним было интересно следить. Ключевое слово «было». Эту последнюю серию можно сравнить с Homecoming. Такая же бездушная поделка и пародия на самого себя. Даже чувствую себя немного виноватым, ведь я спрашивал под предпоследним видео, когда будет новая серия. Возможно, это я спровоцировал все это. Ну а что думаете по всему этому поводу вы? Пиши свое мнение в комменты. Будет очень интересно почитать. Ну а также, конечно, не забывайте ставить лайки, рассказывать об этом и не только видео своим друзьям и подписываться на канал, если еще не подписаны. А с вами, как всегда, был Веб. Всем до скорых встреч на просторах Дипнета и обычного интернета. Ну и, конечно, всех с наступающими праздниками и встретимся на новогоднем стриме. Пока.